I'm Dr. John King with the Department of Forestry and Environmental Resources at NC State University. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about our Sycamore research that's funded by the North Carolina Bioenergy Research Initiative. And what we're interested in is looking at the suitability of American sycamore, which is a native tree species, as a crop that can be integrated with agricultural systems in North Carolina, potentially for a bioenergy industry. Well, that's the thing about sycamore. I want people to start thinking about sycamore not as a tree, not as a forestry species in the traditional sense, but as a crop that we can integrate into conventional farming systems. We start that by buying our seedlings from the North Carolina Forest Service. Then we put we subsoil the field, and we plant the trees right in the subsoiler trench. So you might dig your subsoiler trench about 20 inches. You rip your field basically. Then you follow behind the tractor with your crew, and then we plant the trees in there manually, and then we let the trees grow for 3 or 4 years. This field that you're looking at today is just starting its second growing season. And again, we applied no herbicides, and you can see that the trees are taking over. By next year, they will have shaded out all of these weeds on this site. It's amazing, right? So we let the trees grow for about 3 years or 4 years, and then we just cut them down. And in forestry, we call that coppicing. We cut down the stems, we harvest this material to produce wood pellets, for example, and then the trees will re-sprout automatically, right? They just come back from the stump, and then we have a second rotation of a tree crop. We wait 3 more years, 4 more years, we take another harvest, and then the same thing, it will regenerate, and then we can come back 3 or 4 more years later, and it'll regenerate again. So we plant it one time, but we'll get 3 or 4 harvests out of each planting, right? And we know it maintains its productivity because we have experiments that have been going on for 12 years now, and we've seen no drop off in productivity over that period of time. The economic motivation has to be there, otherwise why would people do it? So the beauty of this system is it can be used as a feedstock to produce wood pellets, for example, and the wood pellets could be co-fired or fired directly for power, for electric power. They can be used in grills, they can be used to heat poultry houses or other, even domestic homes, home seating, or municipal heating systems. So it's an energy source. One of the reasons we're interested in American sycamore is that it's very resilient to biotic and abiotic stresses, things like drought and insects and other stresses in the environment. We found that this is very tolerant of those, and it maintains very good productivity. It doesn't require a lot of inputs. We don't have to add a lot of fertilizer or herbicides or other tillage that's very expensive, and so we think it has a lot of potential to be able to be incorporated into conventional farming systems and provide another revenue stream for farmers. It's improving the soil characteristics. So you can think about worn out agricultural soils that require a lot of fertilizer and other inputs to grow crops. Well, if we put a site or a field into sycamore for 10 years or 12 years, it will improve the chemical properties and the physical properties of the soil. It will remove weed seeds from the seed bank. And so when the farmer puts it back into production, agricultural production, he'll have a more productive site. And that's what the instrumentation behind me is. It helps us measure the environmental footprint. So it is also very good for the carbon balance of the site. It helps remove carbon from the atmosphere and put it in the soil, which is where we want it. And it also has benefits for cooling the environment through its effects on the water cycle. The next step of our research is to interact with farmers and get their input on how to best integrate this system into traditional farming practices. And we think it will have a lot of potential to support rural communities across North Carolina, stimulate new sectors of the economy, all the while having helping our state have an improved environmental footprint. The fact that Sycamore does not require a lot of inputs, like I said, basically this field you see behind me, we subsoiled it and that was it. We didn't apply herbicide, we did not apply fertilizer, and the trees are growing very well, right? So in today's market with very high fertilizer prices, high price of fuel, this will be a way to get a revenue stream without having to put a lot of money into it. So we think the economics are actually getting more competitive with conventional corn, soybean, and other crops.